Morning, Alini Dulovitz. We are now live on YouTube and on Facebook. So I hope Ruth Kaplan, good morning. Good to see you all once again. Today, we welcome you aboard. Thank you for joining us. If you're just logging on now, please do let us know you're with us by putting into the comments. Good morning, Sherilyn Diamond. Thank you for joining. Good morning, Helen and Brian Feinstein. Shirley Feldman, good morning. Thank you for joining us here. Arnold Orkin, good morning. Robert Levy. I can see Maureen and Robert are logging on now. If you're just coming on online now, please let us know you're with us. Morning, Manfred. David Ginsberg. Thank you for joining us here this morning. Vega on YouTube, good morning. Norman Stain, good morning, welcome. Michael Stain, good morning, good to have you back here. Boker Tov, thank you. Bernice Krause, good morning, thanks for joining us. Okay, I hope you're all keeping well. Our viewers are picking up in number. It's busy traffic today. Good to see everyone logging on. Welcome to all those who are just joining us now. Hope you're all keeping well and strong and healthy. Let us know if you're with us on either YouTube Live or Facebook Live. We'd love to know that you're with us during this time, learning, studying, discussing, debating. That's what we do here today, together. We're going to give it Shalom Triga, good morning. Shalom Triga, good morning. Monty Israel, good to see you. Okay, giving it one more minute just to allow people to log on. Great. Okay, welcome to one and all. Good morning, Daryl and Shelley Smith. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us today. If you are just online now, please share your greetings with us. We'd love to know you're with us. Those on Facebook, I ask you please to share this video with friends and family. So just under the screen, there's a share button. Share that along. And let's get going. So we've got an interesting phenomena taking place during this time. Who gave you that? Okay, half of that. Come here. That's fine. Okay, so what I thought we'll discuss today, again, based on reflections that have been passing through my mind during this time. Good morning, Dennis Solomons. So during this time, I've been reflecting a lot, as I'm sure all of you us have been. And one of the topics I've been thinking about is the contrast of versus individual, or individual versus community. And this is an interesting debate that features a lot in Jewish thought and Jewish teachings. And it's so relevant as well to the time we find ourselves in right now with the coronavirus and lockdown. On the one hand, each to his own. We have to look after ourselves, protect ourselves. And when I say look after ourselves, I don't just mean in health, but I mean in economic ways, business ways, income. Each one is responsible for him or herself and her family and her home. So there's the power of the individual. At the same time, we're also responsible for society and community on a whole. Each one of us carries the responsibility of contributing to society, of adding to the environment around us, of protecting the life and the health of others. Good morning, Stanley Brask and Raylene. Good to have you here. Thank you for joining. So we're seeing during this lockdown period, since the breakout of the coronavirus, good morning, Jenny Lichtenstein. Thank you. We're seeing the dilemma between individual and community, individual and society. Do I work on myself and what I need, or do I focus on what society needs and what the community needs? And this obviously is a moral dilemma that's caused big debates in the decision-making of South Africa and other countries. Good morning, Lionel Rubin. Stephen Herr has requested that we learn Ilu Nishmat Esther Bat Moshe. Thank you, Stephen, for sharing that comment on the classroom here. It makes it a lot easier. Thank you. So this dilemma is something that we deal with on a religious level too. And I'm not saying that we've got all the answers. What I am saying is I'm highlighting the dilemma. I'm highlighting the contrast of individual versus community, of individual versus society, which the country is dealing with in its dilemmas, of economy versus health, individuals versus the public. It's a big debate. We see it as well on a religious level, on a spiritual level. And that's more what I'm aiming towards. But nonetheless, all religious issues and spiritual issues lend themselves to secular issues too. Take, for example, a minyan, a shul. So at this point in time, we're unable to daven, to learn, to study together in communities, meaning in shul, in person. We can't have a minyan. We can't have bar mitzvahs. We can't have weddings. It's extremely, extremely challenging for couples. It's extremely challenging for bar mitzvah boys who are unable to have their bar mitzvahs during this time. So a lot of us, putting aside weddings and bar mitzvahs for a moment, a lot of us have been davening on our own. Putting on tefillin on our own, davening on our own, Shacharis, Mincha, Mariv. Although we have been having community Zoom, virtual Mincha Marivs, or some people have virtual Shacharises too. That's taking place in the community. But mainly, we're davening on our own. B'yichidut, as it's called. We don't have the option of being able to daven b'tzibur, in a minyan. Now, let me just explain that for somebody who is reliant and dependent and committed to davening every day of their lives with a minyan, this is a very, very big change. To people who don't normally daven with a minyan during the week and normally daven on their own during the week, okay, so to know that the shul is closed is disheartening and worrying. But personally, I'm not normally one who goes to a minyan, so therefore I don't really get affected. But for the people who are generally used to going to shul or davening in the minyan and participating in a community service, davening on their own is very, very strange. Very, very different. And that's made me think a lot about the individual versus the community. And when does the community role play an important part in Judaism and life? And when does the individual role play an important lesson in our lives too? Rather than answering the questions, I'm raising the questions. It's a matter of discussion, which I think this current situation, both in the countrywide lockdown as well as the change of davening format, has really triggered that sort of question in my mind: the individual and the community and how they work together. So one beautiful insight, which I think leaves us with a powerful idea, or begins with a powerful idea, is the Hebrew word for community. There's a number of words, or congregation. Let's put it out there to our students on both Facebook and YouTube. Can you share with us what the Hebrew word or words are? You can write it in English if you want. What's the Hebrew words for community or congregation? I look forward to being able to hear your responses on the chat. Just put in the chat, what's the Hebrew word for a community or congregation? We'll wait a moment to give people the chance to respond. Good. 2 answers coming through. One on Facebook, one on YouTube. You guys hit it on the nail. It seems like the Facebookers are on the same page. Stephen Herr and Bernice Krause, thank you for sharing. Kehila, good. On YouTube, Stanley Brask shared the word tzibur. Fantastic. Norman Stain also. It seems like there's 2 teams here. Looks like Facebook is one and YouTube is another, because all the Facebookers responded with the word Kehila and Stanley Brask responded with tzibur. Roz Basarabi, I see you're online, but you're not commenting on the right classroom chat, on the right video. So you got to log out of that video and get onto the Facebook Live video for today, Monday, 4th of May. And you'll be able to comment inside our classroom, inside our chat. I'd appreciate that if you can just move from one video to the next. It's going to be the live video, which says Monday, 4th of May. So we got 2 words, Kehila and tzibur. So tzibur, let me focus on tzibur, because that's the word that really highlights our point today. Tzibur is a combination of 3 words. Tzaddik stands for tzaddik. We know that means righteous person. The bet of tzibur stands for Beinoni, the middle category of people of society. And the reish stands for Reshaim, which means the wicked men of society. And so the word tzibur actually shows us that behind every congregation and every community is in fact individuals. Tzaddikim, Beinonim, and Reshaim. There are wicked, there are medium of the road, and then there are the righteous. And every community consists of all. So sometimes we think to ourselves, well, a kehillah or a tzibur is one big united body of people. We come to realize that that big united body of people is in fact not just a body of people. It's a build-up. It's a community of individuals that have come together. And those individuals are not all the same. They're not all righteous. They're not all wicked. They're a balance of everything. That's why society is so complex, is because we're not all the same, and we don't have to be the same. And it can be a community, and it can be a congregation, even if we are different. That's the power of a tzibur. But one thing we do see in that word is the balance. On the one hand, it's a community, it's a congregation, it's a society. On the other hand, it's individuals that fill up that society, each individual focusing on themselves and their own talents and their own qualities and their own values, the tzaddikim of theirs and rishoyim of theirs and the beinanim of theirs. Each individual has his or her own priorities or lifestyle or values, and that we recognize. At the same time, we come together to form a society. It just shows you how complex the dilemma is. When do we focus on the individuals, and when do we focus on the community? And it's so relevant to today's times. When do we hold back? We hold back people from going to work. Why? Because we want to focus on the well-being of society. Society comes first. The wider South African community comes first. So therefore, put all of your agendas and all of your needs on hold while we focus on society, on the community. Or each individual is going to fight for himself, as long as it's not coming to the detriment of society. And that's the big dilemma. If I go for a run, am I harming society? If I go to work, am I harming society? This is a big dilemma. Is what the individual does it harm the community? Or each individual has the right to do their own? When do we pick up on the needs of the society, of the community? And when do we focus on the needs of the individual? These are very, very relevant questions in today's times, both on a secular, more broader South African level, as well as on a spiritual level, in terms of the minyanim and the spiritual service that we're involved in. Good morning, Dave and Joan Block. Good morning, Alan Leibovitz. If you have what to contribute to this conversation, I'd love to hear from you. I'm not offering all the answers. I'm raising the question and the dilemma. And would love to hear from you, our listeners and viewers today, on both YouTube and Facebook. And our numbers are still growing, which is fantastic. If you have any insight or input to this dilemma, please do share it. Morning, Dennis Bessarabi. Good morning. I saw Roz was on Facebook and Dennis on YouTube. So good to have you both here. So another area where we see this dilemma, or the importance of both, is in the Shema. If you look at the Shema, you'll notice that the Shema, I'm talking about paragraph 1 and paragraph 2, that the Shema has 2 paragraphs to it. And the paragraphs are very, very similar, but at the same time, very, very different. In paragraph 1, we say that one should serve God b'chol levavecha, with all your heart, b'chol nafshecha, and all your soul, b'chol mo'adecha, and all your might, which the commentaries say refers to your finances. So a person must give the entire lives for the sake of serving Hashem. That's true. In the second paragraph of the Shema, V'hayam Shamoah, we say a similar terminology. B'chol levavechem v'chol nafshechem, with all your heart and with all your soul. So why repeat it? If we said it already, we know that already. We got to serve God with all our heart and all our soul. And all our soul. We recognize that. So what's the difference between paragraph 1 and paragraph 2? And the answer is that paragraph 1 is written in a singular form, and paragraph 2 is written in the plural form. Paragraph 1 focuses on the individual. I want to do what I want to do. I want to connect to Hashem in the way that I want to connect to God. And here the Torah says, B'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha, with all your heart and all your soul, meaning we're recognizing that you're an individual with your unique characteristics and qualities, and you'll serve God in your own way, privately, quietly, without the hoo-ha and the noise of the community, without the hoo-ha and the noise of the minyan of society. It's all about me and the way I serve God. The second paragraph focuses on community and society. And here we start to speak about b'chol levavachem, b'chol nafshechem. It's your souls and your hearts, meaning the community's souls, the community's hearts. That's more of a public concept, more of a communal concept. And God's saying to us that they're both important. On the one hand, I need you as individuals to engage with me. On the other hand, I need you as a minyan, as a kehillah, to engage with me. And they're both important. And sometimes we have to focus on the minyan aspect, and sometimes we have to focus on the individual aspect, although they could be conflicting. And that's a challenge. Many times, people have shared with me their dilemma that davening in shul with the community, especially the size of our shul at Sydenham, davening in a shul with the community is often distracting. There's noise and there's chit-chat and there's the chazan and the choir and the gabbai, and there's a lot happening within the public space. And so people have shared with me over the time that they prefer davening at home. Because when they daven at home, then they can daven in the privacy of their dining room, the peacefulness of their home, especially on a Shabbos morning or on a Friday night. There's less distractions, technology is off. I'm able to concentrate, I'm able to focus. And therefore, I'd rather be at home as on my own because I daven there better, rather than coming to shul where there's so much noise and distractions along the way. But the truth is, it's not so simple. You're right. Maybe your davening and your learning is more intense and more focused when you're at home. It's possible. Maybe you focus better on your own. But there's something powerful about a minyan. There's something powerful about 10 men plus and ladies and community coming together and davening together. The power of a minyan, the power of a kehillah. It says in the Talmud, it says by our sages that God could never say no. Could never say no to the tefillos, to the prayers of the kehillah. Because the prayers of the kehillah are so powerful that God can't say no when a minyan davens together. And so while your davening may be more focused at home, we can't take away the power of the minyan, of the tzibur, of the gathering of people. On that note, I once heard and learned a beautiful thing about minyanim, is that what's the advantage about davening in a minyan is that when you stand in tefillah, when you stand in prayer, Hashem scrutinizes, he analyzes you, right? You're coming in to ask for something, you need to be assessed. We need to look at you and look at your history and look at your background, look at your conduct, look at your behavior to see if you're so deserving of what you're asking for. And what happens is that God pulls out a magnifying glass, and with the magnifying glass, he starts analyzing. He starts scrutinizing. He starts studying your behavior, your conduct. And that's pretty scary, because the moment they open me up and they expose my true self and my deep self, that's very nerve-wracking. That's very scary. The power of davening in a minyan is that when I stand with a minyan, God scrutinizes the minyan as a whole. He looks at us as one big body of people, and suddenly all my transgressions and all my faults disappear, because now I'm part of a unit. Now I'm part of a whole. I'm part of a kehillah. So that's why there's a powerful idea about davening together with a minyan. That being said, just because it's more powerful to daven in a minyan doesn't mean I can't also daven privately. So here comes the balance of community versus individual. On the one hand, yeah, the minyan with a tzibur, with a kehillah, is very powerful, and God says, I won't say no to your prayers when davening with a kehillah. On the other hand, the individual does have a certain role to play, meaning the individual can daven outside of minyan times. It's not the only time when we can daven. We don't just daven when we're sitting in a minyan. I could daven on my own too. How do I do that? I pull out a Tehillim, book of Psalms, and I daven to Hashem during the day, midday. That's also davening time. I can let out my soul, let out my heart, ask for what I want. Say Tehillim. Meditate. Contemplate. There's room for that. There's room for an individual who goes home and is able to open up a book of Tehillim and to daven on their own. I'm saying even outside of lockdown, please God, the minyanim come back to normal. There'll still be room for individual prayers, individual davening. There are stuff that we do at home. There's prayers that we say at home. Benching is a personal prayer. We discussed benching last week, actually, on these learning sessions. Benching is a personal prayer that I say to Hashem. Brachot on food is a personal prayer that I say. There are many, many personal prayers that I have to Hashem, and that's the place for the individual. When the individual can close their eyes and focus on Hashem and meditate and contemplate and connect to God through personal prayers, that's where the individual, that's where the yachid is able to daven. But the tzibur, the power of the tzibur, the power of the community, the power of the congregation, that's also powerful. And so we're seeing the balance of both. Sometimes we focus on the tzibur, on the kehillah, and sometimes we focus on the yachid, on the individual, and both are important. The same can be said regarding learning and studying. How do you find learning better? When do you learn better? Do you learn better as an individual, or do you learn better as part of a shir? Or maybe relevant to this type of format, do you learn better when you're sitting in a big crowd of people in person? Or do you learn better when you sit opposite a screen and you watch the rabbi or the lecturer speak, and you're on your own in your dining room, in your study, in your bedroom, wherever you may be right now, listening? Do you prefer that sort of learning? Or do you prefer a group gathering, everyone together in one big hall around the table? What style of learning do you enjoy? Do you prefer? Well, the Talmud tells us, and our sages teach us, that both are important. On the one hand, so Dave Block says he prefers it in a shir. Okay, good. There's definitely something in that where the group in the shir support each other and help each other. But at the same time, there's room for my own learning too. You know why? Well, let me explain both sides to this phenomenon. When I sit in a shir, in a community format, we support each other. Oh, so Stan says one-on-one is much more focused. Yeah, it's true, Stan. Normally one-on-one in person is more focused. I'm not sure if one-on-one in a screen conversation is more focused. That I'm not so sure about. But nonetheless, thank you for sharing that. So when we sit together as a community, whether it's one-on-one like Stan suggests, or whether it's in a bigger shir format, the fact that we're all learning the same material, and the fact that we're all going to the same shir, and we start asking each other, are you going? Are you going? Did you understand that point? Did you learn that point? Yes, in person, right, Stan? So the gathering of people supports each other. That's the power of society. It's the power of a community, is that we help each other. And that's the advantage of learning either in a chavruta, one-on-one, or learning in a shir format where we sit all together. We all support each other. So if I'm late, you're late. If you're late, I'm late. If you're not learning, I'm not learning. If you don't understand it, maybe I do understand it. That interaction where society works with each other and hears each other and understands each other and motivates one another, that's the power of a shir, of a kehillah. But at the same time, there are limitations there. And let's compare it to today's situation. There are limitations when we focus only on community. The limitations are that I don't get to do what I want to do. And I don't get to learn what I want to learn. And I don't get to earn or profit. Today's dilemma. I can't get to earn the way I want to earn because I'm tied down by the community, by society. And sometimes I need my own breathing space. Sometimes I need the right to do what I want to do for my sake. As long as I'm not intentionally looking to harm anyone, I want to do what I want to do. I want to learn what I want to learn. I want to connect to Hashem in my own unique way at my own pace. And therefore, there's room for it. There's room for learning on your own, because not always do shiurim cover the subjects that you want to cover. Not always do chavrusas cover the subjects that you want to cover. Sometimes if you want to cover your own subjects or do your own research, you got to learn on your own. And that's okay. It's good. It's healthy to have that own time. And maybe there's something in this as well for the society versus the individual dilemma that we're having or discussing, is that sometimes individual can't focus on the wider society. Sometimes the individual has to do what's right for themselves, him or for her, without questioning what happens with the community around me. Because at the same time, there's an advantage to the yochid, to the individual, through your heart, through your soul, that is critical to cash in on the individual aspects of life. The truth is that you're also a more healthy contributor to society when you are healthy as an individual. Meaning to say, and this will be my final point on this topic, meaning to say, they're not always a contradiction. It's not that the community needs or the society's needs versus my need is at conflict. Often the community's needs or my role in the community will be healthier if I'm healthy as an individual. If I have my own davening time, or I have my own learning time, when I come back into my shir or come back into my chavrusa, I contribute more. I know more. I've researched more and able to contribute more. And the same thing in society. When I'm able to go to work and I'm able to earn a living and worry about myself and my family and my financial stability and my health, I'll be able to contribute to the wider community in a better way. And I think many employers can feel this and relate to this. When we allow the employee to shine, to fly, to worry about themselves, we know that the contribution to the employer, to the wider business, is going to be far greater. If we stifle the individual and we don't let the individual breathe as an individual, then their contribution to the wider company is going to be more limited. So we see the balance of the individual together with the society and the community. Is there any input that you'd like to share here from any of our participants? We have a very nice crowd between Facebook and YouTube on this topic of individual versus community, of tzibur versus yochid. And as we said, the current setup and structure of lockdown, as well as minyanim and davening, has triggered this thought process in my mind of when does society take the lead and when does individual take the lead, and how do the two work hand in hand together. If you have any what to contribute to this conversation, either in a comment or a question or a critique, please post it in either of the chat boxes in YouTube or Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, it looks like everyone's happy, all content. I hope that was an interesting topic of discussion. I don't think we answered all our questions, but we definitely raised a lot of questions and discussed the dilemmas and the moral dilemmas and religious dilemmas. Thank you very, very much for joining us this morning. We have over 30 people on Facebook. We had close to 8 people, I think, on YouTube. Thank you. Stan Braggs, in a larger group, it's too easy for your mind to wander. That's true, but if the teacher engages the wider group, then it could even be better. If the teacher can engage the wider students in the conversation, you may actually walk out gaining more there than learning on your own as an individual or with your learning partner. Because the more opinions you've got, the more input you have, maybe the outcome is better. I'm not saying always, in potential. Okay, wonderful. Nice to learn with you all. Have a wonderful day. Keep safe, keep sane. And I look forward to seeing you here once again tomorrow morning, 10:30. Same place, same time. All the best and a wonderful day ahead. Thank you, Arlene. God bless.